Our next section that we're going to cover here is learning some of the basic GUI features of the graphic unit interface functions. And what this is going to do is allow us to view how we want to get around in Pro Tools. What windows do we want to have available and accessible to make our sessions workflow a little bit more free flowing. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is setting up the playback engine device and hardware. So if we have an audio interface connected to our computer, we want to make sure that Pro Tools, the audio from Pro Tools, is going out of the interface and through the speakers appropriately. To ensure that, the first thing we're going to do is go to the setup menu here, select hardware, and we're just going to check over here to the left to see if our audio interface is showing up. My Universal Audio Thunderbolt interface is showing up, so everything should be good to go. And whichever interface that you do have will show up in this menu here. Okay, going to go ahead and hit OK and get out of there. So learning how to play back audio is pretty simple here. We can do it two ways. We can pull up our transport window control. So if we went to Window and go to Transport, we can simply pull up our stop and play controls from here. The other option is we can simply press the space bar to play and stop our audio playback. Okay, so space bar will stop and play the audio, or you can open up the transport windows here and use the stop and play controls as well. Okay. Next, we're going to learn how to customize the Pro Tools GUI, or which stands for our graphic user interface. So the first thing we want to do is change the main counter. So if you notice when you open up the session, your counter up here at the top was showing in minutes and seconds. So what we want to do is change this to reflect bars and beats. So if you click on the downward facing triangle that's next to the main counter, we're going to choose bars and beats from the pop-up menu. So by doing that, now our session is going to read back. Our time is going to be locked into bars and beats. So if you notice, there's a few things that happened when we did that in the edit window. 3 things have actually changed. The edit window's counter changed from time scale from minutes and seconds to bars and beats. So that's the first change that we made. To the right of the counter, the edit selection start, edit selection end, and the edit selection links have changed time scale from minutes and seconds to bars and beats. So everything to the right of the counter here has changed when we made the change in the main counter. That's the second thing to keep an eye on. The third thing we want to pay attention to is that now there's only one visible ruler that's showing up, and that is the bars and beats ruler over here to the left. Okay. Next, if you haven't made any changes to this session, we only want the edit window view that is displayed is IO. So the only view we want to show up on our tracks as of right now is IO. Okay. All right. So we want to make sure that the clips list on the left, we're not seeing the tracks and groups list. So we're going to make a few changes. This is our tracks and this is our clips list. So there are a few ways that we can adjust this. We can simply go over here to the right, click on our downward triangle, and then we can deselect track list and then deselect the clip list here. And our session will look something like this. If we want to select which windows we want to have open in the session, we can go to View. And we're going to go to Edit Windows View Selector, and then now we can choose which windows we want to have open in our session. For this project, we're going to make sure the comment section is turned on. Inserts A through E. Sends A through E. The IO, which is already visible. And then we want to select the track color as well. Okay. From the edit window toolbar, pop-up menu, we want to make sure that our controls, our playback controls, are showing as well. So there's a couple different ways that we can do this. I prefer to do the command 1, or I can go here to transport, and the transport window is going to show all of my stop and play controls and my output meters, and all those things are going to show up in there. Okay, so there we go. Our session should look something like this once we set it all up correctly. There's also a faster way to do this as well. I like to use a lot of different quick keys and fast ways to get around Pro Tools. So if we went to our edit ruler view selector here at the top, we could have also turned on and off some of those windows. So if we went to the view selector here, we could have also selected what we wanted to see and not see. So remember, there's always 10 different ways to do one thing in Pro Tools there. Okay, awesome. So next we're going to move on to the next portion, which is the mix window. So currently we're inside the edit window, which is allowing us to edit all of our recorded audio tracks or clips. So now we want to switch this over to a mix view. So we'll go to window and go to mix. So the only difference, if you notice, between the edit window and the mix window is that the mix window does not include any transport controls, but the transport window does show the transport window. So if I go to window, I can still access the transport controls here if I choose to do so. Okay. Same thing applies if we wanted to choose which windows we wanted open in the mix window. We can do this. The same thing applies. We can go to view. This time we're going to go to the mix windows view, and we can select what we want to see. So if I wanted only to have let's say the output meters and the expanded transport, I can turn everything off. So I'm going to hide everything else except the output meters and the expanded transport. Okay. And the same instance, we can just do the opposite. If I want to pick and choose what I want to see, you'll do everything from the view window as we just instructed there. All right, awesome. Cool. So the last part here is we now, one last thing to add. If you want to switch between the edit window and the mix window, you can hit Command plus equal, and with one button you can switch between both screens there if it's a little bit more convenient. Okay, cool. And of course, once you complete a session, as we completed this term here, we're going to hit Command S. We always want to save our session. In this case, if you're starting on a session and you're doing different versions of the same session, make sure you go to the File menu, and you will want to select Save As. And then from there, you could give this session a special name, and then hit Save and assign it to the folder that or drive that you're currently working on. Okay, awesome. And then once you're finished, you'll close the session by going to the File menu and simply go to Close Session, and then you're all done. All right, so one thing to remember is that you cannot close the Pro Tools session by closing its windows. You must actually go to Close Session from the File menu, and then that is what's going to actually close Pro Tools down. Awesome. So that completes that exercise, and I hope everybody's able to get around that, and we'll go on to the next one, and we'll see you on the next one. All right. Hope this helps, and we will roll from there.